Hey, Darren Campbell with Confident Home Solutions, licensed general contractor, builder, remodeler in North Carolina. Those are the Pella windows that we're supposed to be installing today. And the old weather's not being too cooperative. Yuck. So, I don't think we're going to be installing them today. We started over here. That's for the pool. But I had to build this tall sawhorse over here, and we'll put one of the walkways across there. We've already built another stand for the back side, so that we can at least get to that window. That one's going to be a tough window to get to. Start working our way around. Thunderstorms tomorrow. It doesn't matter, actually. Tomorrow I'm meeting with the engineers, so. But yeah, I guess let me move on to something else. Hey there. I wanted to talk about a homeowner that we just went and gave an estimate to, and how we decided to not bid on it. All right, stick around. So after we left that job due to rain, I had already had a estimate scheduled later that afternoon. Well, we grabbed some materials, got things laid out for the rest of the week, so we took advantage of the time that we weren't there at that job. However, this estimate went totally sideways, and let me tell you how they gave us a strike and we gave them multiple strikes. A week previous, we had tentatively set up Tuesday between 5 and 6 o'clock. And so I told him, I said, I will call you that morning and lock that time down. So I called him maybe 8:30, probably 8:30. And I says, hey, it's going to be 6 o'clock. Now, we were already on that window job. It was raining, so I'm going through in my head. I looked at the weather. Weather showed it was going to break, and I was like, but it was going to be after 5. So I'm looking at the weather and I'm like, well, I better push it back a little bit. So, I called her up and she's like, not a problem. She says, basically you'd already told me between 5 and 6. And so she's like, that's great. And she's like, I work from home. So she said, it doesn't matter. You just come. Well, we got materials around for other jobs that day, and the weather cleared off. Beautiful. Ended up turning out pretty decent later that day. So it was about 4 to 4:30. I called them up and I says, hey, is it possible for me to come by around 5:30, half hour early? And she's like, not an issue. I already told you, work from home is great. Come on. And so let's leave it at that. Alright, so we pull into their drive, and it's one of these drives that you're not quite sure if you're supposed to go in the front or the back drive. You're just not quite sure. I was like, we're out in the farm area, and there's definitely a marked area to go to the front. I'm like, I'm going to the front. And plus, we were going to be bidding on this front porch too. That was one of the main issues why we were called. So we proceed to go to the front, knock on the door, and husband and wife meet us at the front door. And something was said right then about not coming to the back door. So I won't call it a full strike, but basically they were just like, why didn't you come to the back door? And immediately I was like, well, I was just kind of joking, but that's a good way to get shot. It's just the layout. I just thought it was appropriate going to the front door. So nothing more. We went and looked at the front door or the front porch, moved throughout the house, and everything was very pleasant. We get to the back portion of the house. At that point, I started hearing a few things and their language as to other contractors that possibly had bid on the job, or actually not bid, had came out and looked at it and were showing reservations about the job. I asked about what part of the job they were showing reservations, and they said, well, let me go show you. Have you ever seen a dipstick in a van? This thing's like 100 feet long. Man. Alright. So they proceed to, we end up going out back, and at that point they tell us that other contractors have looked at it, and quite a few of them said they couldn't do it, and that we were recommended from so-and-so that, could get it done. So immediately I just right up straight, I was like, hey, you got some bad roof angles here. It's nothing that we can warranty. I'm not going to warranty this job for what they're asking. I was polite about it. And then I gave him an alternative. Immediately the gentleman, he wasn't real keen on what I offered her. She liked it. She was immediately, you could see the gears turning, that she was coming up with some ideas, and so we talked about that a little bit. I saw, where they were looking at possibly putting the addition and all that. And I says, you know what? After we talked about that for a while, I says, let me and Harley go back to the front of the house, get our measurements down, and you guys discuss what all I've said right here. Alright, so Harley and I are out front. I took some good measurements. We're going down through all the different things that it was going to take and checking the materials, seeing, lead, asbestos, different things. It's not a real old home, but it's old enough. It's in that time frame. And I told Harley, I says, I think I want this job. I was like, yeah. And he's like, he's kind of back and forth, and I was like, yeah. I said, I think this will be a pretty good job. So I said, let's get some good measurements, videos, and let's be competitive on this bid. I changed that bulb in that marker light again. Alright, so the sun's up and down, can't figure out what it's doing. Sorry about it. It keeps going underneath clouds, lights. So, Harley and I took the measurements. I told Harley, I says, yeah, I kind of want this job. I said, let's be competitive on it. So, we took all our measurements, we came around the side where they were, and at that point they told us they weren't moving ahead with the addition side of the project. Not a problem. I already kind of knew that might be an issue with the roof lines and everything, but they said, we're doing everything else, and we want you to take the measurements of the patio. And she said that. So we're setting there. I'm taking the measurements and getting everything put together, and I turn around and he says, "Oh, it'll be a day or 2 days. I'll get you back the price." At that point, he proceeded to tell me that I had a strike against me, and I says, "Well, is it because I'm driving a GMC?" I was just kind of joking, and he's like, "No." I says, "Well, is it because we came into the wrong entrance?" He's like, no, not really, but kinda. And I says, so I just, at that point, I knew it wasn't sarcasm anymore, that there legitimately was a strike against us. So he says, you called 3 times. And he says, that's not very professional. I said, what? You know, I was questioning, I was like, did I hear you right? And basically, and he's like, yeah. He says, you know, you called 3 times, and he says, either way, his wife interrupts and basically says, it's not a big deal. Well, then he follows up, he's like, oh, just joking, or something of that matter. All right, so he gives us this strike. His wife immediately tried to defuse the situation and say it wasn't a big deal. Then he said that he was just joking. Yeah, we know exactly that they had talked about it. And either way, I mean, I'm just telling you right here, I didn't say any of this, but one is they accused us of going to the wrong door, knocking on the wrong door. Number 2, they told us that they've had multiple different contractors. I want to know why they haven't hired one of these contractors, or have they treated all the other contractors the same way? And third, they're accusing me of calling 3 times, and I've only called twice. Once to confirm it in that morning, and yes, later that day, I did see if we could move it up a half hour. She said she worked at home, and I was still within that 5 to 6 hour window that I originally told them. So I don't really think I'm just looking at it from my perspective. I think they're being extremely unreasonable. And either way, I actually appreciate them doing this, so I actually know what type of individuals I was working with. So we get in our vehicle, we're pulling out, and I was like, hey, Harley, what do we got to do to get out of this? I don't want to even bid on it. I said, either we bid it really high, or just, you know what? I said, I'm going to call him. So luckily, it went right to her voicemail. I left a very nice voicemail. Said I didn't think we'd be appropriate, the right contractor, right fit for this job, and I wished him well to find the right person. About a half hour later, I started receiving text. Wanted to know if it was one particular thing, and then a little bit later, they wanted to know why they can't find a contractor to do their job. Well, my first thoughts are, I'm like, well, if you treat them with some respect, if they've treated the other contractors this way, surely those people ain't returning. But I was told that I've been the only one that has returned their calls, and it's a good thing they didn't return their calls, because they would have got chewed out too. So either way, you know, I don't want to, we get along great with most of our clients. I mean, some of them we became friends with. This current window job, these people are fantastic people, and yes, they are our friends now. We've worked for them for about 5 years now, and on different homes, different projects, and we can say we have multiple people that are our clients, but they became much more than that. They're our friends. And so, well, unique situation here, and yeah, I keep track of these little indicators, little flags throughout a job, or estimating, because if it happens at this point, it'll happen later in the job. So, all right.